Hello, everybody. My name is Lewis Lee, and this is Plan in Traffic. We do this every Thursday night, 9 o'clock Eastern. Tell all your friends that we talk about cars, boats, trucks, and anything you put gas in. We got my man, Motor Mouth Ray. What's up, Ray?
Lewis, good to see you again this week, as always.
Yes, sir. Another Thursday. Comes quick.
It feels like a Monday.
Don't it?
Yeah, so we got some interesting stuff to talk about tonight. Nothing new. I mean, everything old is new again as far as the car game is concerned, unfortunately. But tariffs is one of them. And how's it affected you? What have you seen on your end? That's
on my end, availability. It's taking a little longer to get certain things. Before COVID, I think COVID kind of messed up stuff too. It's not just the tariffs, but it's part of the COVID thing too. A lot of factories, or not factories, like warehouses, they stopped housing all the stuff. And where it really showed, like the other day, I took my mom to the J.C. Penney's at the mall. She's getting her hair done. So I walked around the mall a little bit. A lot of stores closed down in the mall. I go in Penney's upstairs and like the shelves are half filled. You can see where things used to be, and they don't have as much stuff anymore.
Right.
And I think part of that is from COVID, because after COVID, a lot of people didn't go back to work. And so that's some of it. And then the tariffs too are added on top of that. But in my opinion, we had to do the tariffs. We had to even up the playing field with the country.
We were getting taken advantage of for generations, I think.
Yeah. So just getting things in fast as we used to. I don't, things are slowing down.
Yeah, the way I see it, and I'm not an economist by any stretch of the means. I'm not an expert at all. I just play one on YouTube. But the little bit that I know, I wish I would have paid more attention in school, because they taught us this stuff, I'm sure.
Yep.
With COVID, which to me is a bad word, that code might as well be a 4-letter word as far as my vocabulary is concerned. It screwed up everything. But yeah, that I think that feeds into it. That's a part of it. But the other thing, the bigger word that I think is the bigger culprit in what's on the shelves is Amazon. I mean, you're guilty of it. I'm guilty of it. We're all guilty of it. You need something, Amazon, bang, it's there tomorrow.
Sometimes my son gets it the same day.
I've actually had that happen too on occasion. But I've had, when I was away in North Carolina, I needed something. I needed that snake for the sunroof. I went on my phone, Amazon, went to my account. I got Prime. Boom. It was there on the doorstep the next day, delivered to me in North Carolina. So I think that's the bigger part of why stuff isn't on the shelves. Because let's face it, if you or I owned a grocery store or a auto parts store or a J.C. Penney, you can do weekly, and you can do even daily, but you do weekly, monthly, and certainly annual reports to see what you sold and how many of each thing you sold. This happened in my friend's motorcycle shop. He had efficiency experts in 15 years ago, trying to just figure out how to streamline the business and kind of minimize the waste and make more profit. And they ran a complete inventory check and came back to him. Now this place was known for having anything you needed for a Harley Davidson. So they said, listen, why do you have like 12 sets of points for a 57 Sportster on the shelf? And you got wheel bearings for a 48, panhead. And then we looked, we did another report, because the software is very powerful these days. And we see you've only sold 2 of them in the last 5 years. So, and that went on with every item that they had in stock, which was thousands of items. And they said, basically, the stuff you have on your shelves, you've already paid for. You bought it and you own it. So your money is sitting there making you no money. What you should do is concentrate on the things that you sell, stock that, take this stuff, sell it off. And, through an eBay store or to another shop, however you want to do it. free up that inventory, free up the cash. Now you have cash coming your way, and concentrate. And they even did the same thing with the mailing list. And it was funny because I was on the list, and but I was riding a BMW motorcycle now, so I really wasn't. I'd go there and I'd still buy chemicals, or I'd buy a battery tender, or certain things that you could use on any motorcycle. So I noticed I didn't get a mailing. I knew that when they did them throughout the year, and I said to my buddy at the shop, I said, "Hey, I didn't get a mailer." He goes, "Oh, I got to apologize for that." Yeah, one of the things they did was they also looked at our mailing list and said, "Okay, 100% of your list, but like 5%. There's 5% of the people on that list that spend 95% of the money in the shop."
Oh, wow.
Or maybe that percentage is wrong, but it was something like that. It was a small percent of the customers who get the mailer that are actually spending the money over and over. And I fell off of that because I wasn't buying Harley Davidson parts, so I'm not a big spender anymore. So they said, you spend a lot of money, because they were doing actual physical mailings at the post office at this time, bulk mail. And they said, you can now cut that down by 3/4 if you just take all those people off the mail list, target the people who are spending the money, and they're your customers. They're the ones that are going to spend money in the future. And he said, "You know what? I'll put you back on because you're my friend anyway." I said, "Oh, thank you very much." So that's how, and I couldn't blame him for doing that.
Yeah.
So in the supermarket now you have products. Of course, there's stuff that's not going to go bad right away, canned stuff and dry goods, but certainly meats and produce and all that stuff that's going to go bad. So you don't want it rotting on your shelf. You want to have you want to have enough to serve your clientele, and then have a minimal amount of waste, because you never want to show that you're empty. I'll give you an example of that too. Just a couple of weeks ago, I buy Rose's lime juice, bottles of Rose's lime juice, and I use it when I make a gin drink, and I make my Yukon Jack drink. And I noticed that in the fridge, it's usually a nice amber color, and it was a little darker. So I looked at the bottle, and the date, it had expired. And I said, "Man, I didn't think I had this that long." So my wife and I are shopping the next week. I go to buy another bottle, and I see a bottle of dark Rose's lime juice. And I look at it, it had expired. So she actually went to the manager and said, "Hey, you got expired stuff on the shelf. You should." So now, since then, I bought a bottle this week, and it was, nice amber colored, and it's dated 2027. So they probably let that slide, because who's going to notice it? And, maybe it tastes a little different. It's not going to kill you. It's not going to make you sick. But that supermarket kind of was, kind of heading in there. So, so with auto parts, I just had I have a carburetor on my bench right now off of a boat. It's a marine quadrajet. So I was talking with the guy, and I said to him, "Listen, I've been using this place, Mike's Carb Parts in Oregon. I've had him on a radio show. I'd love to get him on this show. He's an older gentleman now. He's into his 80s. He still works on carburetors. He still rebuilds them, and he does YouTube videos occasionally. But he's not as sharp or as fast as he used to be. His daughter is kind of running the business now. But when I need a kit, he is the only guy I'm going to go to, because they make them up per order. It's all ethanol compliant gaskets and accelerator pumps, and a little more pricey than you'd pay over the shelf. And they're not in a box; they just come in a sealed plastic bag. He doesn't give you instructions in the kit. You go to his site; he's got more technical data on that site, and it's all free to download. So you can download any of the documentation you need. Now he's my go-to. So I was explaining to the guy with the carburetor, I said, I have to order this kit, so it's going to take 5 to 7 days. It's coming from the West Coast. So I hope you have the time. And he says, yeah, I can wait. And there's a parts store right by my house that is very, very good. We call it an old school parts store. We like to say that they sell hard parts, meaning it's not just air fresheners and spray cleaners. They have all the front end stuff, the engine parts. They have a machine shop that actually still does machine work. So they understand all phases of cars and trucks. So, and I would usually go to them. And I told the guy, the reason I don't is, how long do you think a carburetor kit has been sitting on a shelf now? Like carburetors haven't been in cars for 30 years. So, right. And I've had some kits. I just did a job earlier this year on a Nova, and actually it was a compound problem. The accelerator pump failed, and I told my buddy I was doing it for a shop. So I said, "Listen, get me another kit," and he did. And I changed the pump, and that one failed. And then I said, "Wait a minute." I went to Mike's, and I found out there were 2 different size accelerator pump cups, and the majority of the 2 barrels, the bigger 2 barrels, used the bigger cup. This one needed the smaller one. So Mike gave me the right parts, and the problem was solved. But that pump was also sitting on a shelf for maybe, they're not really making new carburetor kits that I can tell.
Yeah, probably not.
So again, did they, if you go to a store and you buy one, do you think they're reordering it to restock the shelf these days? I don't know. I don't. I should actually ask one of the guys. I should see if they restock.
So the name of his is Mike's. What is it, Mike's?
Let me give it to you exactly, because I know it's always a little different than I thought it was. Let's see. I'll tell you.
Do they have motorcycle carbs?
Mike's carburetor parts. Okay, it's carburetor-parts.com. He's got auto, truck, marine, AG, industrial. You can order by type, by part, by carb number. He doesn't have, I don't see motorcycle. He does injectors too. And I just, ironically, I got this Quadrajet on the bench now. And then my buddy, one of my buddies in Whitestone, just reached out to me. He's got a 53 Jeep with a 4-cylinder, and it's got a Solex carburetor on it. So he sent it to some guy down south to be rebuilt, and the guy said he couldn't do it. So he was talking to me about it. And I said, well, let me check with Mike's and see if I can get a kit. So I actually wrote to them. I emailed them, and his daughter got back to me and said, yeah, they have a kit. This carburetor had been replaced at some point. It's not the original carburetor. No surprise. It's off a 53 Jeep. And she says, this should work. So I said to her, okay, listen, I'll order it. I said, but if it isn't the right kit, can I send it back? She goes, yeah, no problem. She goes, Ray, we'll take it back. No problem. I said, now that's service,
Yeah, right.
Did you find the site? Were you able to?
Oh, no, I didn't even look at it. I just wrote it down.
Okay. Yeah. If you go to, like I said, carburetor-parts.com, and just the technical data section, the manuals and the videos, it's just, and it's all free. He gives everything away in that regard. So yeah, so now we'll be doing this Solex. But again, you got to think, I don't think the parts stores are restocking. I don't know if they even can restock them. I'll give you another story. Carburetor part, while we're on the subject. My old co-host, Joe D, he used to work for Standard Motors, and Standard Motors, sells all sorts of electrical parts for cars. They sell oxygen sensors. They sold all the high grade carburetor kits. That's all that I used those for years. The big blue box of high grade, and they had a carburetor room because they did in-house testing on things to see what would work with what, and if they had to make changes in their lineup. And they got rid of the tooling first. And then he said one day he went outside and all the carburetor kits they had in stock were in a dumpster.
Really?
So Joe did what I did when I saw the college library put all their vinyl records in a dumpster. I dove in and took the album. He dove in and took all these carburetor kits. And he gave me some of them. But the reality is now, they're getting older. Now the gaskets are probably going to be fine, but it's the rubber stuff like the diaphragms from an accelerator pump, and even sitting there statically, it may look fine, it may feel fine, but you put it in service,
and as soon as the chemicals hit it,
good chance it could fail. So I don't know. They said that carburetors would be dead a long time ago, and they're still not. People are still using them like crazy. I know Summit and Jegs, they sell the crap out of carburetors, brand new carburetors.
I'm so I was gonna change that carburetor you did for me, that Weber. I was gonna put on my motorcycle, but I'm having a hard time with that manifold, so I think I'm gonna rebuild my regular carbs.
Okay.
And I think I'm gonna try it myself. I'm scared, but there's a lot of parts, and I got to do 4.
Yeah, the biggest thing, they mount on a rack, right? They mount together.
Yep.
Okay. The biggest problem I've had with motorcycle cars is they have to be synchronized. When you pull it, when you work that grip, they have to be dead on together, or else you get a power imbalance in the cylinders.
Right.
So I've known guys who actually have left the carburetors on the rack and didn't disassemble the linkage and just cleaned them and rebuilt them like that. I've done it both ways, and it can be problematic. It can be kind of problematic.
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna mess with the linkage.
So yours are they do they have the diaphragm cover on top? Are they the CV style carburetors?
No, they're on the side.
Are they Keans?
Here, let me grab them.
Because your bike is new.
Yamaha.
Yeah.
I'll bring Brian in. I'm gonna go grab him.
All right, good. Hey, Brian.
Hey, what's up? Hey, I come in and everybody leaves. Hey,
yeah, we're getting out of here. That's it. You take over.
Man,
Go on, you take over. It's all you.
Man,
they don't want to see us. They want to see you anyway.
No, not me, man. I'm just
me. I'm missing another. Fucking lost another. The other half of the tooth that I had in front of my head fell out on me the other day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm looking like a real redneck now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm crumbling. I'm crumbling in front of myself.
Falling apart.
That's right. Wheels are falling off the bus. Yeah. Hey, I just watched Clay's video, where his Snap-on video, and he said he showed a picture of a Snap-on battery-powered ratchet with a flex head.
Is that that's? I know that next month they have their one of their wing dings. That might be something new coming out. I don't know.
Well, it's interesting. The guy didn't have it on the truck. Kevin didn't have it on the truck, and he didn't know about it. But Clay did. He inserted a picture, so I guess he got it off the web. Yeah. And then he said to Kevin, he says, "Do you remember there was an air-powered ratchet that had a flex head?" And Kevin said, "No, I don't." And I had to say, "No, I don't. I never saw that either." I mean, have you?
Yeah. Well, we had a air-powered, a pneumatic that had a flex head on the cutting on a grind cutting,
right.
It was cutting wheel. And I don't know. I would have to go back. I think Mac had one that was on, I think. But I would have to go back and dig through some of my old catalogs and see.
Right. I don't remember it. I don't know. And Clay he's not older than either of us. So it's, usually anything he knows about I've seen, but that one, I had no idea.
I vaguely remember. I know that we had the angle because the Mac for the longest time was the only one that had that. Once that patent went up, then we have it now. Because I used to carry the cables on the truck to rebuild them or fix them.
Right.
Man ain't coming. So
right.
That type of thing.
Here they are.
Oh, it's a 2x2. Yeah, that looks like the old. Chevy did that with 2 barrels. They had a 4-2. Okay, so those. Okay, I think I am correct. Those big pots on the end that are fin. Yeah. I believe that there's a diaphragm under there.
Yeah,
which
it
makes it a CV style, which stands for constant velocity. It basically works like a vacuum secondary 4-barrel, where vacuum actually will actuate it. So there's
we have a lot of problems with those diaphragms. They break or they come loose, and I think that's a lot of the problem when they go out of sync.
So because that sets off the balance like crazy. So the first thing you've got to do is see if they're available.
and you got to get. I think you have to make sure that they're ethanol appliant, or
Well, the good thing is those diaphragms aren't in the fuel flow. It's just
but I'm thinking vapor wise.
There is vapor. Yes, there is vapor. But any good. Well.
Yeah, they sell.
I just gave this guy with the boat a big lecture about that. I said, how much hose do you have on your coming from the fuel pump up? He goes, "Oh yeah, but I got about 7 feet of it." I was like, "Dude, take it out." I said, I showed him. I took a piece of line off my wall. I said, "Here, 3/8 aluminum tubing. I said, you can use this. And then he asked me the question of the day. He says, wow, is that, what was the word he used? Basically, if it was marine compliant. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't know. Maybe aluminum isn't because it can oxidize. I said, well, then you can get stainless steel. It's just harder to work with. So,
yeah, it's crazy.
Marine world is a whole nother world. But yeah, let's see. Kart racing. Yeah,
I think I'm gonna try my hand at it. If not, they'll be coming to New York.
I'll tell you, Louis, with all the stuff you do, and your abilities, there's no reason. I mean, I tell this to people all the time. They look at stuff like that I've done and said, "Oh my God, well, I couldn't do that." I'm like, "Yeah." I said, "You got a car here? Yeah, show me your car. I'll look at the guy's car and I'll quiz him. Who did this? Who did that?" And the guy did 70, 80% of the work on the car. It's like, dude, if you did all this work and you obviously did it well, you can do this too. But people are naturally, I think, afraid to do something they haven't done before.
So many little parts, and you forget one little thing in there, then it throws everything out of whack.
Well, with that, I would say you take one apart at a time, and you have 3 more for reference. It's like doing drum brakes. People who do drum brakes tell them, don't take one side apart. When you screw up, go to the other side and you see where everything goes.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Or take pictures. Take 1,000 pictures.
You got your camera, so you got your phone. It's a big difference.
Right.
We didn't have that luxury of the phone and the internet and AI.
Paul, I used to have to use a chisel and a hammer on a piece of granite to make my pictures. You kidding me?
Well, I'm a little younger than you. Not by much.
Yeah. Well, it's the same idea. But I still, to this day, I still draw myself diagrams and pictures.
Yeah, I used to draw, but always turn into dirty pictures. So I had to give that up.
Brian always had that.
Draw.
Brian always had the redhead pencil and some.
Yeah, that's right.
Freckles.
Always in it. When I got done, it was always a redhead with big parts, and I don't understand.
Yeah, I still do that.
Yeah,
as long as there were no extra parts.
No extra parts.
Well, there you go.
True.
I'll tell you something. In the world of carburetor rebuilding, I've had people call me and they were frantic. They're like, "I got these extra parts." I was like, "Dude, don't worry. They always give you extra stuff in the carburetor kit. There's always stuff you don't need."
Here's my water system in the bus.
Yes.
Yes. Everything. I make a diagram in case I got to go back.
Right. And just check yourself.
Louis, you did that so good that it's the next person. It's not you.
Yeah.
That system's going to outlive you.
I hope so. Yep.
Everything about that bus is going to outlive all of us. It's just a solid build because of the way you did it.
Oh, thank you. I tried, man. I'm so nervous about things breaking while I'm out on the road. So I tried to build it.
You knew you were going to have gremlins, and I think you've worked through all them gremlins now.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Every trait. You know how the functions of every system. Its habits at high altitudes, at sea level, hot, cold.
Yeah, I've been through it all now. I guess I'm a veteran.
Yes, you are.
And here's my electrical.
Yeah. Sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I got my kids when I go and my kids see all these notebooks.
Yeah.
They're gonna be like, "What the heck was Dad doing?"
I sent the job over to this guy. He's a stereo installer, but he's a really good electrical diagnostician, and he likes working on old Fords. So I didn't want to work on the T-Bird, so I gave it to him. And he was working on a 66 convertible, and that has all the relays and switches and all. And he had the plastic schematic, and so we were talking about that. And I said, "Well, at least you got a good schematic." He goes, "They're not the best." I'm like, "Yeah, I got to agree. They're kind of basic. The factory ones are the best, but it just goes to show everybody sees things differently." He said, "I really don't like working off a schematic." He goes, "I usually draw my own." I said, "Don't tell me. You see it either you see it in wires or you see it as a to from diagram, and meaning that this wire goes from this device, from pin 3 of this switch to the number 1 terminal of the motor. It's to from. And he says, exactly, that's how I got to do it. So I got to make my own diagram. I'm like, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
You know, nothing wrong with that. You just, however you can see it, interpret it, that's how you got to work.
Yep.
But, yeah.
That's why I tell people, they say, oh man, I don't want to mess with electric. And they see, like one of my buddies came over when I was doing the bus. And when he came in, there was wires going all over the place. And he's like,
yeah,
there's no way. I was like, listen, you go from one spot to the next spot. That's one set of wires. Just because they're crossing each other don't mean they're touching.
Right.
You know, everything has one thing going to this, boom, boom, boom. And he's like, oh, that makes sense.
You know, I know I brought this up a couple of weeks ago. I was helping a friend about a year ago on a 57 Chevy, and his son had got the powertrain in the car. It was running, and he wanted me to put the dash, the cluster in, and the steering column. So I did. And then I looked, coming through the firewall was that big cluster of beautiful colored wires.
Mm-hmm.
It was all, oh, Paul, who's the guy? Who's the big expensive wiring company?
Ron Francis?
No, not Ron Francis. Shit. You brought it up last time.
Painless?
Yes, Painless. So I said, all right, great. When's all this going to get done? He goes, I don't do electrical. I said, wait a minute. I thought he was kidding me. I said, really? He goes, oh, no, I don't touch electrical. He goes, you can get hurt doing that. I said, you do realize this is 12 volts, right? Mm-hmm. And like, the worst you're going to do is spark something. Plus, the battery isn't even connected. And I said, furthermore, all these wires have written on them where they go. I said, your young daughter could do this, you know? And he was just, no. I'm going to give it to like my son do it. I'm like, wow.
Get hurt.
And you know what? Hey, and I say to that, good. If you're that adverse to it, then don't do it because you probably will screw it up.
Yeah.
You know.
Get hurt.
So.
See, I'm poor. I can't afford to hire people. I got to do it myself.
Yeah. He's got a son. Brian, of the tariffs, we're talking about the whole tariff situation. Has that impacted?
Oh, yeah.
Supply and demand on your end, I would imagine, right?
Well, supply and demand, cost. I mean, you know, price. Like I said, I have to say, I mean, we've done, you know, as I don't say we, I mean, as in Matco, from what I've heard and talking, they've done a lot of you know, it's been painful, but they've been changing manufacturer so that we don't have a higher tariff on you know, because it's, you know, it's not just across the board. It's, you know, well, if it's coming from China, it's 250% or whatever, you know, whatever number they decide that week, you know,
right,
and change. So we've gone from different manufacturers or different places, and you know, we have some of the companies, which are USA companies, increase different product. That's AJ Manufacturing is one of them. They're in Ohio. Again, they do a lot of our our ratchets, our twist sockets. You know, there was just a number of things that they only did at first with help from Matco. They got the equipment and they're starting to do the stuff here in-house. You know, the only problem that, not just us, but in general with that, is you still have to outsource the metal or steel or aluminum because we don't make it here. That part of it, so there's still kind of a catch-22 with that stuff. I mean, because I feel, and like I said, I'm no expert, and just from things that have happened in the last 10 years, okay, but really more so in the last 5, of changing stuff I think it's a roller coaster effect of affecting us. When they went back and said, "Oh well, to big corporations and said you don't need to carry inventory or stock for this wash machine or this car," and 10 years was a limit.
Right.
Then all of a sudden, like you said, we used to be able to go get a part for a car that was 10 years old. Now you can't. They don't have, they don't have to keep parts for that long.
Right.
So that makes a supply problem, because next thing you know, everybody's digging around in a junkyard for a part.
And they don't keep them past a certain time now either.
Right. Well, then they change. Of course, then, you get into the politics of that of, okay, now, you're paying more for property tax, inventory tax. You have all this stuff where they're just tax. You get to a point where, okay, I don't want to keep anything on the truck. I mean, I remember the old gas stations used to have all their belts and hoses, and they would have all the brake pads, and they would have all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, now they're getting taxed on that. That's income tax, or they're being taxed on that. And so now they're like, well, I'm not going to hold it. We'll let the warehouse hold it.
The other thing I saw my friends that's the other thing I saw my friend's motorcycle shop do. I think they called it. It was point of origin ordering or point of sale ordering, where, like you said, instead of keeping 12 oil filters on the shelf, let's keep 2, because in a month, maybe we'll sell 2 or 3, maybe 4, whatever, and we'll deal with a local warehouse and we'll get it, and we'll get it when we need it. And a lot of places started doing that again, not to keep the inventory going stale on the shelf. Now, if you have it on consignment, it's one thing, but a lot of places are paying for that inventory.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, like you guys, like the tool trucks, right? I mean, you own everything on that truck.
I own everything on that truck, and it's funny because it was like I had a guy stop me one time, and he's like, you got, is that your tool truck? And I'm like, yeah. And I was walking back to it, and I said, yeah. And he goes, hey, do you have he asked me for a old GM Allen, to adjust the points on a distributor.
Yeah.
And I looked at him, I said, are you serious? And he's like, yeah, why don't you have one of those? And I said, well, I don't know, dude. I said, I might have one in the bottom drawer, but I had to go look. I don't know if he goes, you don't know what you have on your truck? And I was like,
cars haven't had points in 40 years.
I said, cars haven't had points in the last 40 years. And
right.
He goes, well, if I had a tool truck, I'd have one on. And I said, well, you can buy mine and drive around. I said, but that doesn't make me any money. I mean, I don't get people every week come by to see the warehouse. I mean, a warehouse antique show. You know what I'm saying? So I'm here to feed my family. I don't need 40-year-old parts.
So good point. So on my show, my radio show, my co-host and I talk about that, and we've talked about parts and how he has trouble getting stuff for American cars. And he says, oh, you must have a lot of trouble getting stuff for your Fiat. Oh, my God. I said, no, I can get parts easier for that car because they come right from Italy. So, Paul, my question to you is, what are you finding in the Model A world?
I haven't been in the Model A purchasing situation lately. What I do see is there's still plenty of A parts around. Prices are holding steady.
Yeah.
Some people still think they got gold.
Sure.
Sure. But there's still, you can still buy frames for $100. There's still, the supply of steel hasn't changed, no matter if we're building these frames in the States or to getting one from China and Taiwan. Where I see the biggest thing going on is the supply chain for, the newer vehicles, the modern day stuff, and for the tools on the tool truck. Brian, what's the chance you even have feeler gauges, which is a tool that mechanics need today to adjust valves from time to time?
I have a couple different sets on the truck, and the only reason why, believe it or not, a brand new Honda still has to have a valve adjustment.
Yeah.
Yes, every 100,000 miles.
Yeah,
So,
but I mean, I do sell feeler gauges.
So Paul, what I was
And
thinking of is like,
transmission shops.
like what if you needed kingpin bushings or a brake drum or an ignition switch, something that's more specific to the car that would be a service part. How available are those for the Model A's?
For the Model A's, I'm not having any issues.
I have two friends, a husband and wife. They have a pair of Model A's. He's got a two-door sedan. She's got a stake truck, and man, he even just recently had an engine rebuild and put an overdrive in his car that he got an original part from. So yeah, he tells me they're having no trouble whatsoever.
Well, it comes down to supply and demand. There's not much demand for Model A stuff, but
Right.
at one time there was a demand for the Model A stuff. So there's
Right.
still a pretty good supply in the United States.
Well, right. I mean, there was I don't know how many of them. I don't know what the production was over the years, but the enthusiast market was there for so many years, and it's still there. I mean, it is
Still there,
obviously
but it's not as strong as it used to be.
No.
But yes, you're going to see Model A's everywhere you go.
Right. So yeah, like I said, so the niche cars like the Model A's, maybe even some brass era stuff, and like my Fiat, I can get parts. I mean, I did. I just got brake calipers, hoses. I got parts, in a couple of days that I needed.
See, I think some of that goes to back what I was saying is that, back in the day, I mean, they just pumped out parts, because there was always a demand or a need for them. So, but when, like you said, I go into a body shop and I see a 12-year-old Honda Civic, which there are billions of those on the road. I mean, they sold billions of those cars, but you can't get a quarter panel from it when it's wrecked because you have to use used.
Oh yeah.
Because it's over the 10-year period and they no longer have to have that around. I remember when I was at the dealership and they did their yearly inventory, man, when it hit that age limit, it didn't even really matter if it sold or not, because I went dumpster diving afterwards. And when you're pulling distributors for a 356, I don't care who, anybody in their right mind knows that car, somebody will need that part. Jay Leno will call you and say, hey, I need a distributor for a 356 and pay the money. But they were just chucking this stuff out the window because, hey, it reached its limit and some bean counter says you don't need it anymore. And they're chucking it. And I went and picked all this stuff out of the dumpster because they didn't have to by law anymore. It wasn't required.
Right.
And, I just feel that when a lot of people, my dad had the same issue when they had an accident and they took the car in the body shop and, they're fighting with the insurance company because the insurance company says there is no new parts or we're not paying the difference. We're putting used. And that's what this used market went crazy. And that's when all of a sudden the price of used parts went through the roof.
Yeah. There's a fellow I follow on YouTube. He's a Toyota mechanic. He was dealer trained. And I got to say, the guy drank the dealership Kool-Aid right down. I mean, he has it instead of blood in his body. But I watch him because he's a good technician. And now he has a shop of his own. So he did a video on a 90-something Celica convertible. And I might have talked about this last week because it impressed me. The diagnostic impressed me, but I'm not going to get into that. He had to take the AC compressor out and he had to change the pulley because the pulley has the bearing in it. And he said, I got to tell you people, don't just don't go for a rebuilt compressor for one of these. He goes, the aftermarket compressors aren't worth it. Keep the Toyota compressor if it's good. And he goes, and it's not available. And he goes, and the clutch is not available. He goes, the pulley with the bearing is available from Toyota. He goes, and that's what I bought. And I recommend that if you have a car like this, which is exactly what I have sitting in front of the house, it's the same engine. He said, I would buy one of these and put it on the shelf. So I did. I went on some of the Toyota sites that I deal with, and the freaking pulley with the bearing is like $430. Discounted. It's already dropped though, $149. I was like, what are you kidding me? Like $400 for a pulley? I'll take my chances with the aftermarket on that one.
Right.
Ridiculous. You think they'd want to get rid of them? I don't know. So it goes both ways.
It's a different world, I'll tell you.
It really is, and it's changing right under our feet, right under our noses. And even though we see it, I still don't believe it. You know, I don't know.
Yep. I was looking at parts for my motorcycle. I got a caliper leaking, my front brake caliper. It's got a small leak, and everything's on here saying unavailable.
Now, you know, I found with Hondas, I used to be able to go in and buy the rebuild kits for the calipers and the master cylinder, and they stopped selling them back in around the 90s. But now I did see something recently. Oh, I don't know. It was in the Fiat. I saw in my Fiat catalog, they actually sell rebuild kits for the calipers and master cylinders, which is old school. They stopped doing that because of liability. They felt if you rebuilt it.
What Fiat do you have?
A 124 Spider.
Okay.
So it's a 124 platform, the mechanicals, the engine and transmissions, the dual overhead cam 4, 5-speed tranny, the brakes, all that stuff was used on other cars. So, and they made gads of them.
Right.
Gads of them. So, but they do still sell the rebuild parts for the caliper and the calipers and master, which I thought was pretty surprising. Again, they said they stopped doing it because of liability. They felt if you rebuilt the parts and then crashed, you know, somewhere along the line, you're going to go to sue them because you used their parts.
Oh, that was, yeah, I hated that because I made a lot of money because we would, with Porsche, there was no remanufacturing stuff. I mean, you know, everything was rebuilt. A lot of
the import stuff, that's how the caliper is serviced. Is you do rebuild it.
We rebuilt it. I mean, like I said, there was only 2 or 3, 5 items maybe that was actually remanufactured. But other than that, everything was rebuildable on the car. And towards the change, especially when, you know, prices like control arms, rebuilding control arms, you know, and this is what always got me because, you know, we got like 2.5 hours to rebuild a control arm. And
wow,
the
really?
bushings, yeah, and the bushings were like, you know, $18 and $14. You know, there was, you know, you had $50 in parts, you had 2.5 hours labor time doing the control arms, and you know, you get the car all back together. Well, one day they come out and say, "Hey, Brian, from now on, you just put a new control arm on."
Yeah.
And I was like, "No, I'm going to rebuild them." And they said, "No, just do the control arm." Well, the control arm was $500, and we only got 0.5.
0.5, okay.
You know, 0.6. You know what I'm saying?
So they were making 5 times the money, and you were making a fifth of the labor.
Right. And, you know, so I had to put it, of course we did then get, well, part of the 2.5 was with the front end alignment. You know, when you did it, that was part. But then, you know, you had your 0.5 or your 0.6, and then you got your 1.2 for doing an alignment. So, you know, you did, you know, at the end of the day, but you were lower in labor. Right. And I always loved this afterwards because when we would have our shop meetings and they'd come out and yell and scream, we need to get our labor, we need to get our money, you know, the labor money up. We're you know, we need to make more money in labor. And I'm like, wait a minute, dude, you cut our times. You tell us to, you know, the parts department now is making, you know, 500% or whatever. They're making all the money and we're making less. But you don't want us to rebuild.
And you're doing the work.
And and I was just like, look, dude, just, you know, you tell us you want more, you know, to us to make more hours, but then you take away all it. It's just like rebuilding a brake caliper. Well, I used to rebuild calipers all day long.
Yeah.
And you got, you know, X amount of money. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, you put a new one on. And now it was, $800 for a brake caliper, and you got your 0.5, 0.6 for each one, and then you had your brake your flushing and whatever. But I'm like, dude, this is ridiculous. You keep cutting my times, but you want me to produce more.
Sure. Well, that's the business mentality. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was upset when that day changed. It all goes back to the chick that burnt herself with the hot coffee and sued and won. Because after that, nobody wanted the liability. Right. I got body shops today. That I could sell them the ATIS for the radar systems on the car, and they could do it in-house and make money doing it in-house. But they all tell me, I know that it sounds great, but he goes, I send it out to this guy. He does it. And if there's a problem, the liability's on him, not us.
Right.
And they rather pay that guy instead of keeping the $250 in-house, they rather give that guy the money, and that way, if there's a problem, there's no liability because it's going to cost a whole hell of a lot more. They just point the finger. So it's sad that that's our society on that. No liability. We just pass the buck.
Right. The lawyers.
Yep. So every time this conversation or a conversation goes that way, I always think about the chick that put the coffee between her legs and was driving a manual and couldn't believe how hot. Why would it be hot? Yeah. So I wish I was that smart at that time. I could have been rich.
Yeah. Who knew?
Who knew how being stupid can make you rich, right? I saw that. Well, you saw that at dealership anyway. The guy that always said he couldn't do anything got all the easy jobs, right?
Yep.
So
the guy who completely screwed up every time after time after time.
Yeah, still got paid, and you had to fix it.
And sometimes was promoted. Next thing you know, he's the assistant general manager.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's now your boss. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I learned. I fell into that trap. I was told later on by one of he said, Brian, you should just tell him you don't know. You don't know because that way you don't. Because they just say, I'll just give it to Brian. Just give it to Brian. Just give it to Brian. So.
And you've seen it. I think everybody here has seen it. The dealership setting, you watch managers and departments come and go every 6 months to 2 years. Come and go. Management overturn every department, especially sales floor. Manager overturn. Salespeople overturn. But there's certain people that are like career at the dealerships. The porters. The lower level guy that just does the work. You see career porters. Some of them might get ready to be fired and they wreck a car and they stay so that they can pay off the damage of the car they wrecked.
Yeah.
I've watched this over and over throughout my career. It's like, don't be the manager. If you don't like the new manager, what he says when he comes in, wait 6 months because there's going to be a new manager who's going to change the rules again.
Well, I had a problem with that, Paul, or me, because usually when they came down to talk to me, I just looked at them and said, well, there's a couple things we need to understand. I'm a producer and I produce the money and you take the money. So you're already got 1 point against you. I said, second of all, I was here before you and I'll be here after you, and then I guess my
feed all of a sudden it went moot.
Yeah. Well, Lewis jumped out
that once before.
So, and then I had my little stick figure of service managers turned upside down with the little X's in the eyes because that's how many came and went.
I can't hear them all of a sudden.
So, but like I normally tell them, I was here before you and I'll be here after you.
Yeah, I was just watching a the two political guys that I follow, and Lewis just said his internet went off. Okay.
Oh yeah.
What's going on here?
We'll hold down the fort. So the one guy had said they were talking about changes in administrations, and he said, "Listen, when I was in the Navy, he said you'd get, a new commander would come in, and he said it would happen fairly frequently, especially in peacetime. He says every time a new commander would come in, he said they had to change something." Because they just had to put their stamp on it. They had to put their mark on the division, on the unit, so that they could write that could be written up for promotion later on. And they all did it. He says, so we knew, like, we were in there for the long haul, and we just had to put up with it again. So the senior guys would sometimes talk with the new commander and say, listen, just like you said, Brian, look, we've been here a long time. We're going to be here. What do you plan on doing to us?
Yeah,
know, and like, let's get it straight. And I guess you have to be very confident, especially in a military situation. You can get away with saying that. But
yeah, well, like I said, I'll never forget. I had a helper, and he had wrecked the car. And he went in. He did the walked in, and thinking that he's going to get shit canned, and he comes out all happy, comes down, and I said, well, what happened? He goes, I didn't lose my job, man. I'm still here, and I'm going to pay, they're going to take X amount of money to pay for the, the claim or the insurance, And I looked at him and I said, that's awesome. That's good. But I said, between now and then, the only way you're going to stay in this job is either you make them a shit ton of money, or you save one of their kids from a house being burnt, or the dog or something, because when you're done paying, you are out of here. He goes, oh, no. I said, dude, I'm telling you. So sure enough, on that last paycheck that cleared his money, he was let go, and he comes down and he's all, he's like, hey, and I said, dude, I told you.
Yeah. Nice knowing you.
I said, there was no, like I said, you have to be a producer, you have to make the money. But, that's unfortunately, that's what this world turned, and, going back to every new guy that came in, shop foreman, not even shop foreman, but, service manager or whatever. It was always, you just held your breath for 30 days because, they either brought some new people in, or, I had one guy, he didn't like the clutter. He didn't want any clutter in the shop. So anything that had a flat surface got thrown away. Benches, parts cleaners, all this stuff got thrown away. And we're all looking at him like, dude, what are we, we take an interior out of back then, $80,000 car, and you want us to work on the ground. I don't understand.
Yeah.
But, those guys had those way. And then, of course, the new guy comes in. Why don't you guys have benches?
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
And, and they wonder why they spend so much money over,
right.
And then it's, again, it's just the way it works.
So,
with them.
Papa Squirrel, what was your experience in the military with stuff like that?
Oh, God.
That good, huh?
Yeah, you always had to. When I first got in, I was X-ray tech, so I didn't have any of that type of thing. I was so down on the totem pole, it didn't matter. But in social actions, you get a new commander in, you had to redo all the forms saying that, I'm supporting this or supporting that. And you had to send them to it. And he signed them and put them out. And then you turned around, and when he left, you did it again.
Yeah.
So we were so happy when we got our first word processor.
Uh-huh.
You could leave the shit in it, and all you had to do was change the names.
Yeah.
Because, you know,
Yeah, that makes it
mostly
a hell of a lot
I tried-
easier. Yeah.
Mostly, I tried never to be in a position of where I had to do anything like that.
Okay.
I dodged authority and supervision. I
Nice.
got out of the Air Force only supervising 2 people as a master sergeant. Normally, a master sergeant is supervising an entire squadron or group or large thing. Not me. I'm supervising 2 people. I loved it.
Yeah, it makes it easy. Sure.
Oh, it does.
It'd be back like in the old days. You walked in everybody's blind spot so they couldn't see you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's one time I was a little worked up, and I looked around and couldn't find the wife, and I looked and I said, "What are you doing there?" She goes, "I'm walking in your blind spot." She says, "I'm safe right here. I'm in your blind spot, and I don't, you're so kind of that's what you kind of have to do sometimes when it cools off." But I don't know. But I think this has been me personally, like I said, not being an expert, but just all the changes over the last several years about putting time limits on stuff and changing production. Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of things, and I think it has just come to a point where it's not like the old days of having stuff sitting around. And there's unluckily enough, there's people like me that's going to hoard stuff. I mean, I got
Right.
I've got stuff, and I of course, this is just from the tool truck part of it, but I even do it on cars. I've got a supply. I got some on the truck and some here, but I have extra belts, I have extra brakes, I have brake rotors, I have a caliper. So if something happened that day on the route, I have the part on hand and fix it, and I could be back on the route the next day. I mean, my downtime's limited. Yeah. Most people don't think like that or have that, it's like I have one guy and he gives me a hard time. I still have old catalogs on the tool truck.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh man, just chuck that and download the stuff on the computer. It's all right there on the computer." And I said, "I can find it 10 times faster in the book and then in the computer. And if I don't have internet, or if I don't have this, or something happens, I don't have the information."
Right.
So does it take up, does it take up some space in the truck? Yes, it takes up some space in the truck, but I have that information and it's easy to find instead of, I think today we rely on so many outside sources, and when one little thing gets turned around, the next thing you know, we have a banana shortage.
That's why, like I was talking earlier, when I take these carburetor jobs in, like this guy with the Marine, I've done work for him in the past, but I find myself taking about 15, 20 minutes, a half hour to explain to these people, like, okay, I used to walk right to the corner and get the kit, and I can turn this thing around. I mean, and I do stuff that these guys are amazed. They'll give me a carburetor and I'll turn it around to them in like a day or two. And they're like, "Wow, dude, how'd you do that so fast? You have that on the shelf?" I'm like, "No, I did yours." "How'd you do it so fast?" "Well, I took it apart, cleaned it, and just got the kit and then got on it." I said, "And I don't want to sit on it. I want to, I want to get it out of here. I want to get paid." And so they're used to waiting anyway. But now I tell them, "Listen, I'm not going to the corner store anymore, even though it's a great store. I'm ordering from Oregon or Washington, wherever. I think it's in Washington State." I said, "It's going to take 5 to 7 days to get the kit. So, I'll have your thing all cleaned up and ready. And when the kit comes in, I'll throw it back together." And I got to explain why. It's because, like I said, how old do you think the carburetor kits are that are sitting on the shelf at the store? When I bought my my Dodge Challenger. It was back in the 90s. It was what was it? Maybe early to mid 90s, 93, 94. And I needed a fuel pump. So I go to the store. He takes a box off the shelf. And it was a Carter pump. I'm like, good. Put it in the car. And it lasted about 2 to 3 months. And then it failed. I'm like, all right. The box was dated 1971. Yeah. So I'm like, yeah, that's how long this thing's been on the shelf. So I wasn't pissed. I was like, all right, I got to go find me a newer pump. And a friend had one. So, but yeah,
I come across that every once in a blue moon. I'll order something, not mainstream, but especially when it comes in the older package, or it's been sitting around in a warehouse. But again, like I said, they've passed these laws for these corporations that they don't need to keep that stuff around. They have a time limit and they just dump it. And I get told I've slowly in all my years, because like I said, I have a good bit of older stuff, or I get called a lot of times finding older stuff. But here lately, I've been this year is probably the biggest year that I've done it, but I've been turning my inventory more than I've ever turned before, just to free up that money. It's the times are different.
Well, I was talking about before at my friend's shop how they recommended he sell off the old inventory that wasn't selling and turn it into cash. That was a great idea, and he was able to do it. But then I think about guys like you, who they won't even let you do that.
Yeah.
And well, wait a minute now. Hold on a second. This guy paid for the stuff, owns it, and you're telling him he can't sell it off. The fuck, it kind of sounds like a little like the things we're fighting in this world right now.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we have, well, we can't really go too far. I got to watch being live on that. But, go along the line. But turning, like I said, they do have something about turning the inventory. And, sometimes it's great. But the only thing, it's like everything else, Ray. It's just like having that. It's just like the time that I had that whole front clip for that Audi sitting in my shed for eons. And every time I had to do something, I had to move the whole front clip out to get something out of the shed. And as soon as I said, that's it, I got to get rid of this. And of course, a friend of mine, they had crashed a car and needed it. I said, come get it. Just take it. It's yours. And then 2 weeks later, what happens? I need it and I can't find it. So it's hard. It's hard to get rid of. I did this the other day. I sold. I turned some. I flipped some of my inventory, and it was sure as shit, man. First stop. Hey, I thought you had. Now I gotta order for the guy next week.
But by flipping it, you mean you sold it? You sold it off?
Yeah.
Okay, so you still sold it, so at least you didn't lose it.
Yeah. Well, no, but now I have. But the thing of it is that I got to order it again.
Right.
I have to order it. And
well, but that when you order it, you have someone buying it.
That's true.
It's not sitting on the shelf.
I'm just hoping that next week that he still wants it, or he didn't buy, or he did. I know.
You have to pay for it up front.
Yeah, I know that, but that doesn't work, and that doesn't work with these guys.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry. I'm not going to sit here and argue the point, but the guy will tell me he wants it. I'll wait for it, And then I bring it next week, and he's like, "Oh, well, the Snap-on guy walked in, and he had it, so I bought it."
Well, then
and
you
I'm
tell
like,
him, listen, Pedro. I'm sorry to inform you, though, but you know what? Here, you got to bend over right now because this 12-piece extension set is going somewhere, and you're walking off with it.
Like
you'll
I
be
said,
clicking and clanging as you jingle.
I'm
shoving everyone up your ass.
I know, sideways. Trust
me. I know. I understand. I get it.
It's like I said, it's just like everything else. There's sometimes there's very little loyalty and respect for that. The guy says get it, and you get it, and they look at you like, oh yeah, man, I bought it from this, or since I had to wait a day or two, I just ordered it online. So
I understand. I get that. And that's unfortunate, but I mean, you live with that every day.
Yeah. So this instant, like I said, having it instant or whatever it's hard. And, again, it's just, I hate to say the nature of the beast, but it's just the way it is.
So I got to tell you a story. It's really pretty cool. I know I've talked about this guy in the past. It's a guy that my brother worked with at Porsche Audi dealership. He was from Russia. Actually, I found out he was from Ukraine, but he was actually from, and I forget, that part of the Ukraine that Russia took over and made Russia. He was in it before Russia took it over. So he actually became Russian by default. And that's the guy that became the number one AA plus times 4 Audi technician in the New York area. He was the guy. And I just connected with him again this week. I sought him out again, and we had a nice phone call. And he retired. He gave up the business, and he was like, he was the top guy. But we were talking about stories. I was telling about the show. I said, I'd love to get you on the show. You got to meet Brian. I said, you guys will have a ball together, because he's been doing it since the 80s, here until really recent day. But he was telling me one quick story. We were talking about doing jobs quick, and I remember telling you back in the day, they had a good service writer who understood that guys have skills in certain areas. So my brother Mike was a big guy, big hands, and he couldn't get in to do tight stuff. But Lenny was a short, thin guy with thin hands, and he could get in there. So the service writer would let them swap ROs, especially on recalls. So if I remember there was like a recall on an exhaust bolt or something, and my brother couldn't get in there, but he gave him all to Lenny, and he would make time out the ass on these recalls. And then a lot of the electrical stuff, or stuff my brother could do, especially heavy work, he'd give him, and he would bang them out and just make a fortune. So it was nice that that the service writer would do that. But Lenny was telling me, he says, yeah, he goes, that reminded me, because I always think of you, brother. He says, I was doing, this is going back, he said it was an Audi 200.
Yep.
He says, they weren't around for too long. He says, but we had the 200s, and there was a shop, it had an oxygen sensor light on, and they couldn't figure it out. They did everything they could do. They were calling. They went the gamut, and he goes to the shop to visit to see what was going on. And the technician was a younger guy. And then he says, all right, I'm going to show you something. So he said he pulled the dash apart, and it was a relay that had a reset button on it. And he says, I pushed the button, and the guys, what'd you do? He says, I push button. I reset the relay, light go out. He goes, how did you? We were fighting for this for days, for weeks. And Lenny says, there's a lot to learn in this business. So I said, Lenny, that's gold, man. Stories like that. I said, you got to meet Brian. I said, you got to come on this show.
Yeah, that's that was like the one time. And of course, we had a twin turbo S, and it was in a buyback situation, and because the car would cut out, under high RPMs, the car would cut out. And it was funny because, and they messed with it. I mean, it had been to a couple places. It comes to our dealership, and we're all standing around, and I'm like, walked underneath the car, and I said, "Man, this is something's different. Something's not right." And the Porsche rep was there and so forth, and I said, "Why is this car missing the Cosmoline?" And the Cosmoline was a thick, oily base that they sprayed underneath the car to protect it. And of course, none of the lifts went up high enough. So when I walked under them, I had the top of my hair always had Cosmoline in it.
Oh, yeah.
And I get underneath the car and I'm like, something's different. I said, why does this car have no Cosmoline? And they all started looking around and said, yeah, why doesn't this car have Cosmoline? Well, they finally realized the guy took the car to a speed shop and he put in a light and flywheel in.
Uh-huh.
So a brand new car, put a light and flywheel in. It couldn't keep up with the sensors. That's why the car would cut out. It would get the car all out of gyro.
Oh.
And it wasn't the car's fault. It was what the guy did to the car.
Okay. I thought you were going to tell me why it didn't have Cosmoline.
Well, the reason why I didn't have Cosmoline, because the people that were working on it didn't want to get dirty, so they pressure washed it. They took it all off. So that kind of, because, we're testing this and testing that. They didn't want to take anything apart on it. They assumed that because the car only had 200 miles on it, there's no reason to take the car all apart.
Right.
And I'm like, well, why is there no Cosmoline? Of course, then they started looking, and then we looked at the bolts. You could tell that the transmission had been out. So we said, all right, pull this out. It has a aftermarket light and flywheel. All right, Mr. Customer, this is not a buyback situation now.
Right.
This is, you went in and you tinkered with it. And, that was, I don't know what happened on that end of it, but it was just, like you said, something silly or something stupid, like pushing the button or why is this clean, So
I didn't know there was. I didn't know there was ever a relay that had a reset button on it. That's kind. I mean, I guess you could. Sure, why not?
Yeah. Actually,
like
I have 2 boxes of a whole bunch of relays. I should see if I have any laying around.
Yeah,
because I remember I like the relays that had the fuse on top of the relay.
Oh yeah.
You had a relay, a relay would plug in and a fuse would go on top of that. And it's like, that's kind of okay.
Right.
So, but there
my
was
wife's Volkswagen, her Jettas in that have relays in them. And most of the ones that have the fuse on top go to the fuel pump.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at this going, why the hell do you put a fuse on top of a relay?
Yeah.
And then, of course, put it where I can't find it.
Okay. I bought a while ago. I bought these for ease of use because when you wire relay, you gotta put in a fuse. So here it is. On the holder, there's a fuse built in to the relay holder. That's actually on the relay itself.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah,
the fuse is built in, so now you don't have to wire. It just saves you one more step in wiring.
Yeah, we had a few of those relays with the fuses on. They were always fun.
Yeah. And the thing that still gets
the
me to this day
with had the old glass fuses on.
Yep.
I'll give you another one, Pop Scroll. My Fiat has ceramic fuses. With a little band of metal. So the thing that I never understood about relays is why do they put? Yeah, there goes the fuse. Why did they put the mounting tab on the relay and not on the socket? Because you have to undo the screw to get the relay out, where they should have mounted the socket that way. I'd like to know whose bright idea that was. Even on the Bosch stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's the stupidest thing in the world. You put the mounting tab on the relay. I don't know.
That's because you didn't go to college for it, right?
Well, that relay might be grounded. That's the relay could be grounded.
No, these tabs just slide out of the plastic.
Oh,
yeah. These.
I thought the other one. I thought the one with the fuse on looked like it was part of the.
Actually, God, I'm wrecking the place. Holy shit, stuff is flying all over the place now. Actually, no, you know what? No, the tab comes out.
Oh, yeah. Look at that.
So it's just in the plastic. Yeah, that would make sense if they did that, but no. I guess it gives you a short place. Well, even if you had the tab on the socket, you could just ground the relay right to that point too. I don't know.
Yeah, those.
Don't try to figure out engineers, Ray. It'll make
I know.
brain.
Especially German.
I've been in the field my whole career in one way or another in engineering, and I understand fully that you can't figure out what some other people have done. It is crazy. Especially if it becomes legacy. So yeah, I'd like to get Lenny on here. I haven't spoke to him now. I hadn't spoke to him in a couple of years. He still has his very thick Russian accent.
Yeah.
Very understandable. And but now he was telling me like he's suffering from wet MD. He's got he can hardly see anymore. I said, that must have been fun doing electrical work. He goes, yeah. He goes, it was getting hard. It was getting bad. But so I asked him, I said, Lenny, what do you do with all your tools? And he said, he goes, I gave them to my son. He's got a son that's about 40 something years old who has a love for now older American trucks and cars. So he says, all the Audi tools, he goes, I have tons of specialty tools. He says, I told him, just keep these in a separate box. Don't get rid of them. Hang on to them. And I guess he probably didn't even have many American tools, I would imagine, because he's been with Porsche Audi all his career. But so he has more specialty tools than anything. But good to see his son is playing with cars. That's good.
Yeah.
So
that's I was asked today what I did that, and like I said, they're all in the toolbox still. I mean, all the stuff I just can't seem to get rid of. I made the mistake early on when I started selling. When I went and sold tools, I sold some of my stuff from guys that that needed the stuff, and then after that, I said that was a mistake. Should never sold them.
Right.
Then you go back out and rebuy them, them, and put them in. I was just like, well, that was like I had one of those spring compressors that you mounted on the wall. I can't think of the name of the company.
Yeah, the McPherson strut compressor,
the big spring compressor thing. And I didn't know where to put it in the garage here at the house. When I left the dealership, so it was sitting on the floor, and every time I walked by, I kicked it, tripped over it. I'd move it to the other side of the garage. I had to move this thing all over. And of course, one day I walk into a shop, and the guy goes, "Hey, I'm looking for one of those McPherson strut compressor tools. If you get any used ones, or if you get anything, I don't want to spend the money for new. If you get a used one." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I got a deal for you," And of course, typical luck of the Irish, the whole 9 yards. I sell it to him, no problem. Like I said, sell it to him. He's happy. I'm happy. What? Couple weeks later, guess who has to put a strut in his car?
Right.
And now I'm out there looking like a monkey effing a football, trying to use the old spring, the old OTC,
the jaws,
the jaw things, and I'm rolling around, and the whole time I'm just like, I was mad at myself.
I'll tell you, I get bit the other way. I just saw I've had my Fiat on the road 23 years now, 22, 23 years. But when I first got it, I had to redo the suspension, the brakes, the interior, a bunch of stuff. And I said, okay, I had to do bushings, control arm bushings. So they came out. So the front springs had to come out. The rear springs are easy. They just trap between the rear and the body. So I start looking. I'm like, wow, let me see. The big spring compressors weren't going to work. So I had the rods with the hooks, but the springs were so small in diameter, I couldn't get them in there. It wouldn't work. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So I look in the factory service manual, and I swear I could show it to you. They tell you in the factory service manual to compress the spring as far as you can with the weight of the car on a jack or whatever, and then take braided wire and loop around the braided wire and terminate it, do it on 2 spots, and then remove the spring with the coils compressed like that. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I was like, this is like so anti-safe.
Yeah, you're playing with a bomb.
But I'll tell you the truth, it worked. And in fact, I can even find, let me see here. I have a picture of it because I had to
see, this generation would have done that, squeezed it, and put about 37 zip ties.
Zip ties.
And as soon as they got the thing in their hand and halfway out, that thing would have blown apart.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Let me find, let's see, EF Fiat. Here we go. 79, mine. 2014. That's way too early. All right, let's see. Let me find here. These are okay. Let's try this. Here we go. So let's see. I always get tripped up on this stupid site how to share. Come on. That's no, those are settings. I don't know why this thing always screws me up. Why I can never find what I'm looking for. Group layout, no. Spotlight, shut, layout, music. What's this? Is this it? Oh yeah, here we go. No, share screen.
Yeah, it's the little TV with the plus in it.
That's it. So there we go. There's the rebushed and painted control arms with the springs, with wires, and I used, I think, 3 terminators on this, on each side, and there they are, and I painted them with the wires on it, and there they are in the car.
That's scary.
I had a friend of mine helping me, and he did a bunch of work with me, and it's kind of funny because him and I have this history. Like he'll call me frantic about something with the car, like, oh, I don't know what to do, and I don't know. And I'm like, John, like, listen, dude, you got this, this. Oh no, and he's frantic. I said, what would happen if I called you with the exact same question? What would you tell me to do? And then he would tell me, and I said, exactly. So why can't you listen to yourself? Because he's second guessing himself. That's why. So we also have this thing that goes back and forth. Like he'll come over and help me with something, and I'll be thinking about, I don't know how I want to take this apart. I don't know if I should hit this or should I? He's like, just give me the hammer, And I ask him, like, why are you so sure about this? He goes, that's not my car. And then I go work with him on something, and it's the same thing. Give me the impact hammer, give me the saw, give me the torch. Why not? It's not my car. It's you're freed of that. So we kind of bust each other's balls all the time about it. So it's kind of funny. But hey, did you see Keith's video today? He had to take his son to the doctor in Orlando, and he was jonesing about his Isaac. He was jonesing about he took the Bolt, and he was afraid he'd run out of battery power. So he was like turn the AC on. Then when the car got hot, he would turn it off. Then the car got hot, he'd turn the AC on again. He kept cycling it because he didn't know if he'd actually make it.
Oh, really? I didn't
200
see
miles.
that.
And he did make it. I just saw it before he put it on Instagram. He did make it, but it was he was really skirting the edges.
Huh.
Another reason I don't want electric. There's always a gas station for now.
Yeah, for now.
Right, Coach?
Right on.
There you go.
I figured I had to rush to get on. I heard you were destroying your room there. You're picking up by the relays and stuff.
Oh yeah. Everything was falling apart. Yeah, just mess down here. Sure. No news there. Yeah. Just making a general mess of things. But yeah.
I was listening to you guys on the way home. We had practice and then another meeting.
Wow.
So yeah, lots of meetings, man. But in fact, I'm so discombobulated. Last week I texted Lewis on his birthday and I said, "Hey, I got a meeting today, but I'll try to pop on the show." And he responded back, laugh out loud, "It's Wednesday."
Yeah.
And I said, "I don't even know what day it is." And then Thursday came, and about 10 o'clock at night, I went, "Wait a minute. I could have got on the show today." I was like, I don't even know what day it is.
Yeah.
That's the way it's been.
That means you're working too much.
Yeah.
Well,
that and it's hot. We're in the middle of a heat bubble. They
Dude,
said
we were like 60 something degrees today.
Hey, send it.
Holy shit.
Send it.
We weren't. I'm sorry, Coach. Go on.
I was going to say send it this way because I'll look up what it was today. But it says it was 107, which means it was probably closer to 110. But they're saying it's going to be on Saturday and Sunday. It's going to be between 111 to 113.
Wow.
And we have a mom's clinic that day. Like we hosted a dad's clinic in June. And now we're doing a mom's clinic. And I said, of course, the day we're doing this, it's just got to be ungodly hot.
Right.
So,
Brian, I'm sure it had to be cool by you today too, right?
Yeah, we weren't that cool, but it was nice.
Yeah,
it was nice. Yeah. We've had we never got it, but late afternoon it starts to get real humid, like it's going to rain.
I actually felt like water in the air almost. It wasn't as much as like that heavy oppressive humidity, but I could almost feel the water.
Yeah, it starts getting kind of humid, and you wonder, and it got a little dark. Yesterday, was it yesterday? Tuesday. Man, it was bad. We had a couple of tornado warnings, and the wind was bad. We did not, but down the street we lost a couple of really big trees. This, I will admit, this time at my mom's house, there wasn't any damage. The last 2 weeks before, she had a tree, but even out in her neighborhood, when I was leaving, they had a tree on top of a house that they were trying to get off. It was two amigos and a C10 pickup truck with a whole bunch of rope tied all over the place trying to lift the tree off the house. It was fairly interesting to watch.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then they had the guy in the other part of the tree swinging with his look like what's the pirate? Jack Sparrow. He was swinging around from the broken limb and the part of the tree that still was good with a chainsaw swinging, cutting. It was fairly interesting watching. So
they finally was like, man, this tree is heavy.
Yeah, that's what I tell you. So, but yeah, we've had some crazy weather, and it wasn't as cool as that. But I was hoping I think tomorrow, Friday, it's supposed to be not really a little bit off, but I think it's coming back. We don't get enough of a break.
All right, you know what I'm gonna do? Let's take us. Let's close the show since I guess Lewis isn't coming back, and we'll save some bandwidth. So we'll say that'll be it for this issue of Playing in Traffic. Lewis Lee, Ray Guarino, of course, Mac Man, Brian, Papa Squirrel, and Coach Isaac, the late comer, and everybody else who did or didn't make it on tonight. We'll be back next week. Maybe we'll talk about tariffs. Maybe we'll talk about carburetors. I don't know. So till then, see you. Good night.
See.